Attention Big Blue Nation. Welcome to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now, a unique exploration of America's paramount collegiate hardwood program, featuring anecdotes and memories from the 1950s forward to the very latest on everything UK hoops. Kentucky Basketball Then and Now seats Wildcat fans front court and center. Here's Lexington native and SEC standout Gary Waddell and Owensboro native and Rupp Front senior student manager Mike Harreld.
Hello and welcome again to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now. Again, I'm Gary Waddell. I've got Mike Harreld and Tom Gray with me. The three of us are our team, and we're happy to be back with you after missing last week. Well, guys, what do you have for us this week? Tom, you want to start? I think you've got a little more than I do, a lot more than I do. You want to start us off?
Yeah, there was finally some recruiting news this week. Some of it changed today, but Kentucky is the so-called favorite for two lesser-known but still talented so-called, well, they decommit. This is something Calipari's done a lot of in his time at UK. A recruit signs somewhere else in the spring, finds out, hey, I'm better than I thought I was, and I'm going to get my school to release me from my letter of intent. I'm going to put myself on the market. And the two guys that came up this week are in that category. One is Jordan Burks, who's originally a native of, he's lived and played in almost every state in the South. He's from Decatur, Alabama. He went to Florida, and then he went to Arizona for school, and he played in this OTE, Overtime Elite League, with and against Rob Dillingham, who's another recruit. And so he popped up, and he visited UK over the weekend. Was supposed to announce today, but has postponed it until Monday. The other one is a fellow named Joey Hart, who's a 6'4", 6'5" shooting guard, very well regarded in Indiana. He finished third in the race for Mr. Basketball. He shoots more than 40% from the three, so he's not going to start, but he'd be nice for 10 minutes of shooting off the bench. And then just recently, another OTE Overtime Elite player, 6'10" guy, along the lines of Oscar Schwebwe, but different game, is going to visit UK starting tomorrow. And he played on the team with Rob Dillingham. So he's a good possibility. So recruiting went from nothing going on, or we losing them to somebody else, to we had three names pop up this week. So
is the last guy Somto?
Somto, yeah. I forget.
Okay.
Cyril.
That's the one I read about. He's supposed to be pretty good.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's rated in the top 25 or 30 in next year's class, but he's already graduated high school, so that allows him to reclassify. And so UK is probably crossing the T's and dotting the I's on his academic eligibility. And I'm guessing that if he wants to come and he wants to reclassify, UK will take him this summer.
You think?
I think they take you and me this summer, Gary.
Yeah. He's kind of popped up late. First time I've heard his name was yesterday. And if you go on YouTube and see his tape, he's pretty smooth. He moves around well. And, of course, you only see the good things, but he had a three-pointer in a scrimmage and looked pretty good. Handles the ball pretty well, but who knows until it gets here.
I think
go ahead.
Any and all of the three would be good additions at this point.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, because we only have 7 on scholarship, right? Right now.
Well, one of the walk-ons got a scholarship last year, so he'll probably keep it this year. But
So that means you got 8?
Yep.
We have 8 on scholarship. We have 3 more. We have 5 more available if we want to get them.
Yeah. It's funny with NIL. All of a sudden now I see talk about these guys, recruits, high school guys, and he's considered Wichita State, Tulsa, whatever it may be, and Kentucky and Duke. And before Kentucky, the first 2 would never be in there. It's Kentucky, Duke, and maybe North Carolina. But this NIL money has changed the schools that have a shot at these guys.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
And for some reason, UK doesn't be able to get a grasp of how to do that best for their circumstances. I don't know what it is. We certainly got enough money, I would think.
Well, we're waiting for Mike Harreld to contribute some more money, and we can really go after some of these guys.
they do seem to be second class on this right now. This whole NIL thing, Kentucky is just sort of acting like they don't have to do it or something. Although they did it for Oscar, obviously, but it just something's missing there to me.
Yeah, yeah.
Mike, technically, the law, the legislation says that Kentucky cannot get too involved with the process. They can make people aware of what NIL opportunities there are if they come to UK. That's about all they can do. They can't talk money. They can't negotiate. They can't say, we'll do this and that.
But when does that happen?
I think Kentucky just hadn't gotten a grasp on how the process works. So,
is that from Frankfurt that they can't get too involved? You know about state legislature?
That's NCAA. That's the NCAA legislation that applies all across the country.
Okay. Well, other schools are doing it. We somehow give more money or something.
Yeah, other schools have figured it out.
So, Tom, does that mean that you have to have signed a scholarship with a school before they can talk NIL?
I don't think so.
No,
I think they just can't get involved in the negotiation.
The school, but an individual.
The school cannot. Calipari cannot say, "Hey, this guy is willing to pay you $500,000 if you sign with us," and that kind of stuff. That you can't do, but you can make players available of what NIL opportunities there are on campus, and that's about all you can do. I think there's a way to wink and nod things that we aren't doing that others are.
Right.
But boosters can talk to them about specifics, right?
Yes, the boosters can do that.
Yeah.
Remember back in the day, Gary, when we went on probation 2 or 3 times for boosters talking to recruits?
Yeah, now it's all legal. Why don't you give more money? Is what $1,000 to the guys in trouble under Sutton?
Yeah.
Well, when I was there at Kentucky, nobody got into practice except about 20 guys. And they didn't come very often. But Coach Rupp told me, he said, Mike, these fellas get into practice. They're friends of ours, and they can do things that I cannot.
Oh.
And I said, yes, sir. So I think they were the NIL of the time.
Yeah.
Of course, it wasn't nearly as lucrative as it is today, but there was some things going on everywhere then, just like there are now.
Somebody told me that Kentucky probably only has 2 individuals in the state who could. This is talking about Calipari's buyout, who could pay the $60 million, even if they wanted to buy Calipari out. One of them was Kraft, and I'm not sure who the other Joe Kraft. I'm not sure who the other one is. Neither one of them has said publicly, "Hey, I love UK basketball. I'll write you a check when you're ready." So that hasn't happened. Probably won't happen until it gets down to 15, 20 million if they still want to get rid of him.
Yeah, I was going to say that's a pretty heavy check.
Yeah. Of course,
Mine might bounce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yellow Wood guy down at Auburn, though, paid $22 million for their football coach right before the guy from Boise came down there. 22. What's his name? He's a pretty good offensive coach, but he wasn't doing too well as when he became head coach there, and they fired him very quickly because the Yellow Wood guy paid the buyout of $22 million. That'd be Yeller, and he used to have those neat commercials. I thought they were neat. I mean, there's so much going on. See where Patino now has got his roster set already.
Yeah, Patino got 11 recruits in the last 2 months.
Yep. And some of them sound pretty good.
Yeah. He even lost some ones that he wanted. So somebody's doing something different.
Yeah. And of course, he can coach them up. So I thought he'd be in the top 20, not this year, but next. But I'm revising that prognostication. He may even get in the top 10 this year.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to play against him early on, or certainly in the tournament.
No, he's too good a coach, and that press he puts on is very good. Saw where Duke lost. I think it was yesterday. Got a decommitment from one of their guys that committed. A guy named Ron Harper Jr., whose dad we know from played in the pros, played at Miami of Ohio, but he decommitted. I don't know where he's going to go, but so even the Dukes of the world, who've been a thorn in our side for 10 years now, is losing people. It's a different world out there.
Yeah, I think that new coach is going to have a little tougher way to go than Krzyzewski had.
Well, that may be why Coach K went ahead and retired when he did. He could see the handwriting was going to get a little tougher for him, and maybe not. He was 74 years old, but still, I think it was. He knew was good again. Before I forget, it was nice to see that Mike Phillips was elected to the Ohio Hall of Fame. I don't know if it's just basketball, but either way, that would have been quite an honor for him. And that was a shame. Fell down steps in his house in Madisonville.
Yeah,
about 8-9 years ago. But good guy. He really won 2 tournaments for us. I mean, he won the NIT, I think, basically by himself. He had a great NIT when Roby broke his leg or hurt his leg, and then he did a real good job in the tournament when we beat Duke. So we owe a lot to Mike Phillips, and everything I've heard, I didn't know him, but everything I've heard, was a really good guy.
My sister did know him, and he was a very nice guy. Mm-hmm. She couldn't say that about every other player on the team, but she liked Mike Phillips a lot. Oh, she went out back then with Joey Holland for a couple years. Mm-hmm. And so she got to know a lot of the guys in the mid-70s on the team. She liked Mike Phillips a lot. Mm. It is just the Basketball Hall of Fame. And I looked through the inductees. The only other Kentucky player that jumped out at me was Kevin Greavy. And we've had plenty of good players from Ohio. So I could have missed one or two, but that's quite an honor to be ranked alongside Kevin Greavy. Phillips was amazing. He's still in the top 10 or so in points scored in the state of Ohio ever. He was twice Mr. Basketball, which is hard to do. Led his team to an undefeated state championship as a senior. Won 4 out of 5 games in his 4 years at UK, so he had a good record. He made almost 55% of his field goal shots, which still ranks 7th in UK school history. So that's pretty impressive. He was an impressive guy. And one similarity you have with him, Gary, is that he picked UK over Tennessee.
Oh, okay. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
He was a whisper from being a volunteer.
Uh-huh. Tom, what did you mean when he won 4 out of 5 at Kentucky? What is that?
He won 102 games and lost 21, so that's 80% winning percentage in his years at UK. So
I got you.
He had a pretty good record. Not only did he have 4 good years, but they won way more often than they lost.
Yeah, and he had some good teammates with Greavy, and Roby came in same time, Goose and all that. So
who were the guards?
In those days, it was Kyle Macy and Truman Claytor, Larry Johnson, and people like that.
They weren't too shabby either. Truman Claytor and
those teams were very talented.
Yeah, that's the team that basically won in '78, right?
Did win, yeah,
very much.
It should have beat North Carolina the year before. They went to that stall ball, and we couldn't. They were hitting the one guy hit 10 out of 10 free throws, I think it was. We just couldn't break that holding the ball. So that's one that got away from us. I mean, North Carolina won the game, but that's one that we could have won very easily. So, yeah, Joe had it going back then.
He sure did.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't know about Phillips is he had a really, really good career in European pro basketball, especially in Spain. He was quite the star on a couple of teams over there. And I thought I read that he averaged 28 points and 12 rebounds a game for his 12-year career in Spain. So he fit the spot for somebody. He didn't do much in the NBA, but
I didn't know he was there 12 years.
Yeah, and that was a surprise to me too. I knew he'd played overseas, but if you played 12 years overseas, I mean, that puts you in your mid-30s.
Yeah. He was a big guy.
Shame. It's not a shame he's being inducted. It's a shame that he would die in such unusual circumstances, falling down the stairs. I mean, I could do that. But if you hit your head or something, something doesn't work out right, the Grim Reaper is right around the corner.
Well, I know from experience it's really good to break ribs. I've done that twice and broken ribs each time I fell. So
Yeah.
It can be very dangerous, to say the least. I was going to ask Mike if he has anything for us today.
I feel a lot better about this year's team, this coming year's team's chances if we can get some of these players that we talked about earlier. Because right now, I think we're in for a kind of a dismal year, especially if anybody got hurt. So I think there's a lot more hopeful, not real yet, but hopeful optimism.
I don't think the guys we're talking to now are going to help as much. They're in practice and all that, 3 or 4 stars.
Those big guys, well, I mean, like Tom was saying, Dampier was a 3. I mean, you get them in there and work them. And anyway, I just think there's a much better opening for a decent season than I felt 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But it's still got to be proven. I mean, they still got to sign, and then they got to be able to play. But if all we go in the season with is the 7 we got now, I mean, they're all, I think, okay, quote unquote. But boy, that's asking for a really bad year, especially.
Yeah. Key injury, and you're in a world of hurt.
Yeah.
Gary, you and I talked yesterday about, had UK ever had 8 freshmen on a roster? And
yes.
I did a little research and found that twice recently under Calipari, they had, in one case, 8 freshmen and 2 sophomores in 2014. And then 4 years later, in 2018, they had 8 freshmen and 3 sophomores. And you remember what we did in 2013 was a lousy year. We were NIT bound. Remember what we did in 2014?
I think that was the year we won it all, wasn't it?
Well,
No,
we did.
12.
We almost won it all. Connecticut beat us in the championship, but we had a mighty fine run in the NCAA tournament with literally 8 freshmen and 2 sophomores.
Yeah.
Now, some of those 8 freshmen are way higher rated than these guys would be, but freshmen are freshmen. And I forget who it was, Mike, that used to say that the best thing about freshmen is they become sophomores.
I think that was over the summer, though, not over the season. But
true.
But they really did improve as the season went along.
And then 2018, pretty much the same thing. Had a good year the year before, but lost a whole lot of people, not to transfers, but to graduation and NBA early departures and all that stuff. And we still had a Sweet 16 finish that year. Mm-hmm. So it's possible. But I would take the other team on this Toronto exhibition series that we're doing for the NCAA. I can't imagine you'll have a team together starting now and being ready to play in July.
Yeah.
Never having met each other before.
Who else is involved in the Toronto thing other than Kentucky?
I don't know. I haven't seen. I assume it's something similar, whatever other countries have in the way of an NCAA to pick a team from those countries. I don't know any specifics, though.
I think there was a team from France, I believe, or Germany, one or the other. I mean, just reading the teams, it's not going to be like it was 3 years ago when, it just went down there and killed people. So, what was that, 2 years ago?
It was,
yeah. And this is going to be a real team, I think, that we're going to face and have to play well. So this will be a little preview for what's going to happen in November of next year.
This is in July, right, when this takes place?
Yeah, around the 10th, I think, something like that.
Yeah, and so there's just one team from the United States?
No, there's 4.
Okay.
I mean, we're going to play a number of games over there. A couple are going to be in the afternoon, a couple at night, and we'll get into that more. But I think it's going to be, I believe, some real competition. Well, when you only maybe have 7 guys, it surely will be some competition. And you never know. Maybe the walk-on that got a scholarship will really improve. I'm sure he's practicing a lot now, knowing that he's going to play, where in the past he knew he probably wouldn't. And he could be a help to us before it's over. You never know. He was the best of the walk-ons the last few years. That's why he got a scholarship last year.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
He's definitely going to play some role. I don't know if he's going to be hitting the game-winning basket, but with the possibility of an injury during a game, he's got to go in there and he's going to have to play some games, some role, and it takes 5 to beat the other 5. You're gonna need somebody wearing the uniform out on the court. So I think he'll get a chance to play more than he has up till now.
Oh, I think so too.
And when he came, he was thought of as a pretty good player. He could have had scholarships to other schools, but it was his choice and desire to play at UK.
Well, another little advantage too, he grew up right in Lexington, almost in Winchester, went to Clark County. We don't have too many of those Kentucky boys on the team that play anyway. So, as far as I'm concerned, that's a positive. Hope he obviously does well for us. Mike, you got a joke for us? Adolph joke?
Adolph is such a character. He had a story of every day, but I always think of how, and I may have told this before, but I think it's worth hearing again, how intense he got the team ready. You know, there were very few games where Kentucky took the floor and they were flat under Adolph. Watching for 4 years, I saw this happen time and time again. I mean, our guys were human, and if we're playing Little Sisters of the Poor, it's hard for them to get up. But Coach Rupp, you remember, would always have the team. We were underneath the goal, and so he would always have our team warm up at the other end so that they would be coming toward him at the second half, so he could call some plays and stuff if he wanted to. So that meant before the game, the other team was warming up right in front of him. And, you know, almost any team that is playing college ball has got 2 or 3 guys that can, when nobody's guarding them, can stand out there and shoot what we didn't have a 3-pointer then, but what the equivalent of a 3-pointer was. And almost everybody had at least one big guy that would come in there and rattle the backboard with a dunk. And so Coach Rupp is sitting there watching that, and he would see them hit 3 in a row outside, and his feet would come off the ground. He'd throw his arms up, and he'd say, "Oh my God, they're going to kill us!" And then as the guy comes in and slams one in, and he just flinches and clutches his arms to his throat, and thinking, "Oh God, we're just going to get killed." And you know, it looked like, you know, the first time I did it, I watched it, I thought it was some kind of act, but it was sincerely Adolph. He was scared to death, and he would see these guys, and he would get so wound up that then when everybody went back to the locker room, he would come in there, and even though our guys had heard it 100 times, he would wear them out about how they were just going to get their butts blistered if they didn't get ready to play, because this was just a blankety blank, really great team. And it worked almost every time. He would get them ready. When they took the floor, they were ready, and they did, you know, pretty well. And it was just, he was so into the game, so intense from the minute he walked in the Coliseum. The first thing he did was he would come over to me, and I'm sure later managers, and he had to have 2 sticks of gum, some Kleenex, 2 pieces of chalk, and a little cup of water for him that he would drink some and give it back to you. But that was a routine that before the freshman game, then he would go sit down and watch the freshman first half. But then people would be coming in, and so he didn't want to be bothered. So he would get up and go back up under the stands and sit in the area where they were getting their ankles taped and stuff. But of course, there were no cell phones, and we didn't have TVs back there. They probably do now. And so I had to have about 3 or 4 managers lined up to help me. And every time somebody did something that the crowd oohed and awed about, the second half of the freshman game, we immediately sent somebody up under the stands there to tell Coach Rupp what had happened. And because he was intensely into it, he just didn't want to be bothered. So that intensity of his was just one of his most really I think, great traits, but really unbelievable, because he was just so intense that sometimes he would be almost out of control. He would, when they were warming up, the very first time I was standing behind him as a freshman, some photographer came up, and I didn't realize what was happening, and yelled, "Hey, Adolph!" And Coach Up turned around, and this guy, back then the cameras were those big flash things, and he popped a flash right in Coach Up's eyes, and Coach Up looked at me and pointed his finger, and he says, "Don't you ever let that happen again." So for 4 years, I was right behind him with about 3 managers behind me, and I didn't let anybody else near him as a photographer. But he would turn around, say after 5 minutes into the warm up, and say, "Slim, let's just film the first," because he's very tight. He wanted to save money. "Let's just film the first 20 minutes. And so, of course, the film crew, guess where it is? It's up the top of Memorial Coliseum.
Yeah.
So here goes a manager all the way up there to tell him that. And then about 5 minutes later, he would decide, no, we better tell them to film the whole thing. We'll tell them later if we change our mind. So here goes another manager up to change the instructions from the first one. And sometimes we did that three times before he was happy with his decision. But he was just constantly into every aspect of the game, and just so into it that his intensity was, I don't think I've ever seen anybody so consistently intense in my life. So, and it obviously worked for him. I mean, he had the ability to take a player and reach inside of them. It was painful. They had to be willing to lay it on the line and put up with a lot, but he could pull things out of you that you didn't know you had in you. And then he could get you fired up, and he would be right on your tail. But I think, of course, I'm prejudiced, I guess, but I think he's the greatest college basketball coach that there's ever been.
Wonder how he and Pitino would have got along if they were in the same age era. Well, if they were competitors, they probably wouldn't have liked each other at all. But I wonder.
No, I think they would have been. I mean, Pitino is, he's a good coach, no question about it. And he's pretty slick, and he would have done everything he could to get under Coach Rupp's skin and bother him. Mm-hmm. Kind of like Babe McCarthy and Wildcat were really, really good at that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, those two were. Yeah.
I have one more thing. I read that New York Post article on Pitino and getting his 11 recruits. And this was on the first day he signed the job there. He called his assistants together, and it says he laid out qualities St. John's needed to look for in recruits: high character, athleticism, versatility, but most of all, shooting, and more shooting.
Yes.
Quoting Pitino, if they can't shoot, he told the staff, I don't want them. Mm-hmm. So right. I think that's something maybe that should be done a little more often by other schools.
Yes, I think that was the biggest difference in the way Kentucky played under Pitino and the way they played under Coach Rupp, was that Coach Rupp wanted at least one player under the basket to rebound when you shot. Pitino's philosophy was, if you're within shooting range and you're open, go for it. In fact, I saw him take people out of the game and chew them out for not shooting. So he was a much more of a gunner, and it worked in the sense that he would get people down the floor before anybody else, and they were open, and so they would take a shot. And because he had such good shooters, the percentage was pretty good. If you didn't have good shooters, that wouldn't be a very good strategy. But clearly he was the one that liked to do that the most. Coach Hall did it. You remember against Indiana, that great upset we had of one of their very best teams,
92-90.
Yeah, he he had the guards shooting when they came in the front court. First time they were open, shoot it, and which was not his normal. He was more loose than Adolph was, but he was not anywhere near the gunner in philosophy that Pitino is. And of course, the game has changed, and I think Pitino generally is right with his philosophy.
Yeah, that Joe Hall thing reminds me of the old joke. I don't know if it's true or not. Well, I know it's not true, but when Joe Hall retired from coaching, he took a job with a bank in Lexington.
Right.
That same day, the bank got robbed. And when they caught the criminals, they said, well, why in the heck would you rob a bank on broad daylight? He said, sir, everybody knows that Coach Hall won't let the guards shoot.
Yeah.
That's an old one there. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, that was back, before the shot clock, and everybody had those big guys, and so everybody was just trying to work it right in to have a guaranteed basket 6 feet from a guaranteed goal 6 feet from the basket, and it wasn't a particularly exciting game to watch. Some of the time, it looked like a wrestling match under there.
While we were talking about Pitino, I did some research last night, and I looked back at Pitino's recruits. He signed 30 recruits in his 8 years, and we tend to think of Pitino as signing off 4- and 5-star recruits, and those certainly were most of his recruits. In those 8 years, he signed 7 5-stars, 12 4-stars, 8 3-stars, and even 3 2-stars. He made players out of all of them.
Yep.
That's the thing that he took, much like Coach Rupp took someone that maybe didn't have the, first team this and all that honors and accolades, but he made a player out of them. Pitino did that with even a guy as simple as Junior Brady. Junior Brady was a walk-on his first year, and a better baseball player than a basketball player. But Pitino made him into one heck of a good basketball player.
Yep. Same with Dale Brown.
Dale Brown's another one.
Yep.
Well, maybe our new assistant coming in this year will improve some of our players quicker than they've been improving, and do the same thing. That our guys, my way of thinking, typically over the however long they're there, most of them 1 year, they don't improve that much. We haven't seen that. I don't think. Maybe this new new coach will turn things around. Well, all right, guys, enjoyed it. Thanks for getting together, and we'll look forward to talking to you first. I don't think I gave the email address to communicate with us. That's chat Wildcats plural at gmail.com. Chat Wildcats plural at gmail.com. Thanks, everybody, and we look forward to talking with you soon.
Right. Thank you.
Roger.
Roger. I agree. All right. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to Kentucky Basketball Then and Now. Mixed by soundsational audio expert Daniel Dottridge of Atlanta Podcast Recording, with web hosting by Buzzsprout. On behalf of hosts Gary Waddell and Mike Harreld, go Big Blue.